Halloween is nearly 2 weeks away, and I've been a little slow when it's come to getting costumes ready this year. This year I'm actually not doing any costumes for myself, which is unusual to say the least, but I already have something to wear for my costume, so we're good there. But instead, I am making 2 costumes. My friend's boyfriend is going to be Jinu from K-pop Demon Hunters, and he's going to be going as the demon version of Jinu. I told my friend that I could not probably do everything in time, but that I could probably do the top jacket piece. From the movie, it all appears to be one piece, long sleeve, ties in the middle, and then it kind of opens and flares out. And a lot of costumes that people have made for Jinu, it looks to be like a jacket and then maybe a shirt or like a sleeveless shirt underneath. But then I found one cosplay like costume store, and what they have is a long sleeve, black long sleeve underneath with the like collar, and then it looked like a long vest that covers the long sleeves. Glancing back at the animated movie, that actually seems the most accurate. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with that route because I had seen a hanbok pattern on Etsy when I was just like searching for hanbok, because I didn't even know that was the correct term for it until my friend told me that, like, oh, can you make the hanbok for Jinu, whatever demon costume? So I bought this pattern. This pattern, I've already printed it out. This pattern is in Korean, so I'm a little confused. I have had to use a lot of Google Translate to try to figure this out. And then so if I get that done, I am then gonna work on my husband's jacket. So my husband and I are going as Count Orlok and Ellen Hunt, I think is her name, from the 2024 Nosferatu movie. It's simple for me because I'm going as her like night dress. For my husband, going as Count Orlok, which I don't know why I thought this would be such a great idea. He has a mustache, so I was like, oh, you have a mustache. And I thought it would be fun to do a bald cap on him. So I'm gonna bald cap. And then I'm just gonna do his jacket, which Count Orlok's jacket, very odd. It's got extremely long sleeves. He doesn't even like put his arms through the sleeves. He just like kind of holds his arms inside it and it just drapes over him. I thrifted this oversized women's like wool jacket. And what I'm gonna do is paint it. I'm gonna try to make a pattern because his jacket looks like cheetah print, but it's actually a floral print, is what everyone on the internet is saying. So I was gonna try to make like a foam stamp almost, so I can like stamp on a floral pattern all the way around. And then I'm gonna add fur to like the top and then inside. So that's it. The pattern for Jinu's, the hanbok, came in 3 packets, so I still have 1 more packet to put together. This includes the pants, but then it also included the collar for the vest. So originally I was just gonna try to like find the pieces for the collar and only tape that together, but I think I'm gonna just tape the whole thing together, cut out the collar and the pants. And, you know, I don't think I have time to make the pants, but I'm just gonna have the pattern just in case, and we'll go from there. So, just straight to work. We're going into the sewing for Jinu's outfit, And this is gonna be for the undershirt. So it's this white shirt. We're just making it black, obviously. We've made some changes. The sleeves, they're a little bit like rounded out on the bottom. We've straightened it. That's pretty much it. Oh, well, also we are not doing a lining. So all of the edges are gonna have to be hemmed. So I'm gonna cut these out. I need to cut one of each of these, two of the back, and we'll be not making this. We're cutting two full pieces, and then we're gonna sew the middle because that's what they asked for. And then two sleeves, and we will be doing two collars. I'm starting by cutting out all of the front top pieces, and then I'll cut out the back two pieces. I didn't really pay attention to what side of the fabric I was using. They kind of looked the same. One side was a little shinier than the other, and I was trying to keep the shine on the inside. And I sewed the back two pieces together in the middle and pressed those seams down. And then I'm going to sew the pieces, the top of the seam where the back connects with the front two panels. And then again, just press those seams. Just a note to remember, I did not sew the sides together. We will be doing that after we put the sleeves on. So now I'm going to cut out my sleeves. These do need to be cut on the fold, so the straight, not angled side, that is where the fold is. And then I'm just going to cut around the other three sides. Now I have to connect the sleeve to the main shirt, and what I do is I find the middle of the sleeve, align it with the seam at the top, and then I folded it over to get the whole length of that, and I'll take that over to my sewing machine and sew that sleeve to the shirt fabric. After you do sew the sleeve to the main shirt, you're then gonna fold over your sleeve, and then you'll sew along that open edge, and then that will continue all the way down the side of your shirt. I did not show that, but I'm just gonna say it as a note now. So after you attach your sleeve to the shirt, that's when you can close your sleeve and then close the sides of your shirt. And again, I did not film that. I don't know why, but here's some more footage of me sewing. I quickly discovered from this project that I hate collars. I don't know what it is about collars, but they made me so angry on this job. So I'm trying to create a little stitch that I can pull together to kind of bustle the curve of this collar, and then we're going to press that down to make like a nice clean rounded edge. I attached my collar off screen. I did not film that process. I'm just going to try to explain it to you in voiceover. But I sewed the two collar pieces together. I'm just pressing down the seam here. And then what I did was one edge I aligned with the top of my shirt, sewed that together, and then you fold over the other collar side. And then I went ahead and hand stitched to create a hidden stitch the other side on the inside of the shirt. Moving on to the vest, as you can see, I modified the pattern by adding some more paper to increase the length. And then I sewed all of my cut pieces together, and I did this twice, one for the lining and one for the main fabric. I just sewed the two front panels to the back, along the side and the top, and then I attached the lining and the top fabric together. I didn't hate this collar quite as much as the other one. This collar I did modify to have a squared straight edge. In the pattern it's supposed to be curved, but the look that Jinu has, it is like just a straight quarter edge. And now I am sewing the two collar pieces together on the non-folded side. And then similar to what I did for the shirt, for the vest collar, as you can see here, I'm sewing one side of the collar to the back of the vest. And then what I'll do, and what I didn't show, is I'll fold that over, and then I sewed the other side of the collar to fold over, and I'll sew that on the inside. And I think I did a mixture of hand stitching, and then I also did a thing called stitching in the ditch, where I basically just tried stitching where I had stitched the other side before, but it's kind of messy and didn't turn out super great. We are on the home stretch. So for the top, the long sleeve, I just have left to do is hem the sleeves. For the vest, I have to hem the bottom and make the knot and loop clasps. Now what I'm gonna try to do is sew strips of basically my rope, my whatever I'm gonna try to make out of the ties. I'm gonna like sew long strips, turn it inside out, and then try to fashion those into the knots and the loops. And then I should be all done with this project. Making these ties were actually probably my favorite part of the project. At this point, I was very burnt out and I don't know, just doing something a little different was refreshing and nice. So I basically just took a bunch of strips of fabric and folded them and pressed them in half. Then I sewed the two sides together. I believe I used a 3/8, maybe 1/4 inch seam allowance. I don't really remember, but it was pretty small. This is where it does get a little tricky. I used a safety pin to turn my fabric inside out. I attached the safety pin to the side, not with the stitch, and then you just kind of have to like finagle it. It's really, the hardest part is to get it started. You have to push the safety pin in and kind of just keep flicking the fabric to go over and fold in on itself. Once the fabric has folded in on itself, it's pretty easy then to just keep sliding the safety pin over and repeat that motion of just trying to flip the fabric over. You keep moving up the safety pin and you'll get it eventually. Making the knots was probably the hardest part, and I'm not even gonna do a good job explaining how I did it, so I'm just gonna link the video that I watched to make these. I thought they were called Celtic knots. I was trying to find like Korean button knots, but what I found was a paracord Chinese button knot tutorial, and I just followed that and I made 3 buttons. But basically you're just looping around to create this knot, and then you have to fish the ends through the same hole so they come out the same way. And then I sewed the 2 ends just straight onto my vest top. And they actually turned out pretty good. So I also used this cord that I made to create the loops that the button knots go through, and then I also used this cord to make ties for the undershirt, which you don't see me sewing all these attachments onto the shirts because again, it was just like the last minute thing. So what you will not see me sewing onto the clothing are the button knots, the loops, and then the ties for the undershirt that just tie the front 2 sides together. Moving on to Orlock's jacket, I wanted to make a stamp to easily paint on the floral design, so I drew a quick square pattern, moved it into Illustrator, and image traced, then duplicated the image several times so I could see my pattern. I saw there were a few empty holes and filled those in. Once I was done editing my pattern, I exported the project as an SVG for my Cricut. I resized and set up my file to cut out the foam. I didn't have the correct blade for cutting out EVA foam, so I selected a preset that would hopefully give me the deepest cut. It unfortunately didn't cut all the way through, but I was able to easily rip my pattern out. I wanted to try a stamp with a backing, so I cut out some cardboard to glue the foam onto. I also tried a version that was just two cut pieces of foam stuck together. For the paint, I didn't use anything special, just some simple black acrylic paint that I brushed onto the stamp. I did end up using the stamp with the cardboard the most. It was much easier and faster to use. The stamp didn't work perfectly all the time, so I did have to hand paint a few areas, just filling in some of the lighter areas to make them like a richer black, sometimes having to completely repaint areas as well. I used an old fur throw blanket for the fur details on the jacket. I cut out strips and used a hot glue gun to attach them to the ends of the arms, the lapel, and the collar. Next, I airbrushed some dark reddish-brown paint to give the jacket some age, especially under the arms and any edges and other areas I thought would get dirty the most. I did a terrible job putting on Elliot's bald cap, but at least the party was outside and at night, so no one was going to notice my botched job. And yes, I did use fabric scissors to cut the bald cap. None of my other scissors seemed to work. Oh yeah, okay. After sort of situation.
Well, that's what she said in the video, right?
Yeah, I think so. Got some nice creases that are just like where the thing was folded. You look so scared.
Nice goon. Where's his hair? Is it like...
It's like on the...
Okay.